Jurassic World Northwest is full of dinosaurs, but what it isn't full of is restaurants. This is the only restaurant in the whole park, so today we're going to be building a lakeside restaurant in our Cretaceous cruise with a habitat for Parasaurolophus. We've got a whole load of empty land at the back of the Cretaceous cruise, and I really want to fill it, so we're going to build a restaurant based on the Lost World restaurant at Universal Studios in Japan that not only gives views over the lake, but which is right next to a new habitat for Parasaurolophus, so the guests can see the Parasaurolophus in the water as well. The first thing we're going to do is put in a monorail station because I want to increase the transport links in the park so that people can get directly to and from the Cretaceous cruise area as well as the other areas in the park. So we're going to place one of those in here, and I fiddled around with the tracks until I got something that looks quite pleasing behind the Therizinosaurus habitat that we built last week, and then I'm just going to put some extra tall custom trees in front of some of the supports. I think that melds away nicely into the background. Now we can get started with our restaurant. So initially I purposefully left this area blank because I didn't want any more herbivore habitats right next to the Spinosaurus. But when I was kind of testing it just before I released the episode, I realized this blank area is just way too big. It takes way too long to get down there in the kayak, and it's just kind of dull because there's no dinosaurs to see. So what I've done is I've moved our big rock pile closer to the Spinosaurus habitat and then opened up a big space here where we can have a restaurant, and then beyond the restaurant will be a Parasaurolophus habitat. So they're still going to be pretty far away from the Spinosaurus, and there'll be the restaurant in between them and the Spinos. So this restaurant needs to function. We've got very little amenities in this park, so we're going to have all three of the amenities in here, just using the custom versions of them, and then we'll build the restaurant around them. So we'll put the amenities in, get them hooked up to our pathing system, and then we'll run a path down the side of the lake and hook it up to our new monorail station. Going for a curving path here, don't really want any straight lines in the park. That's everything connected, and now we can move on to the habitat. We're going to be using three different barriers to keep the Parasaurolophus in. Firstly, the normal Jurassic Park fence. Secondly, one of the underwater walls that we've been using throughout the Cretaceous cruise. And then finally, some of the restaurant itself will act as a habitat barrier. So we want a fairly small habitat here, but still within their size requirements, and it's going to extend out into the water because the guests are going to be sitting above the water and they're going to be able to see right into the Parasaurolophus habitat. On this part of the fence here, coming down from the monorail station, we're going to have loads of signs for the different food and drinks available in the restaurant, just to get people in the mood for eating and drinking. And we'll also use the log arrangement that we came up with for the habitat last week, just to make the fences look a bit nicer. And then we'll do a load of planting in front of them so we get this path looking really attractive. With that done, we can move on to building the restaurant itself, and we're going to start with a sign. The real Lost World restaurant in Japan, which this is very loosely based on, has a really cool sign. Sadly, we don't have the actual Jurassic Park font to use, but we're going to get as close as possible with the font that we do have. So we're going to create the beginnings of the sign. We'll copy the word restaurant, make that black, and slip it underneath the original so we get a drop shadow. And then we're going to surround the Lost World text with a darker copy of itself, so it has a outline. And then we'll start using, this is kind of massive bits of bamboo in the original restaurant. We're just going to use wooden poles for that because we don't have any bamboo pieces in the game. And then we're going to attach the sign to the wood pieces using the end of one of these communications pieces here. These communication pieces are so useful. There's loads of different pieces in that little section, which I use all the time. We'll get this into the right position in front of the amenities, add a few decals. Now we've got the beginnings of a nice sign there, and we can start on the building. So we're going to use this window here as a door. I just like the glass pattern on it. I think that looks pretty cool. So if we get it to the right color, place it where we want it, and then we're going to use another communications piece to create a handle. We'll just spin that round and hide it back in here. We're not going to have an interior on this building because I want the guests to just walk through these doors, and then they've got all those amenities there, and then they will appear on the big open air part of the restaurant that's going to stretch out into the lake. Now I say this is very loosely based on the Lost World restaurant, and the reason for that is I only had one reference image of the entrance originally, and I already knew exactly what I wanted the rest of the restaurant to do and how it was going to extend out over the lake. So I didn't bother finding any more reference photos. I've just used kind of the sign and a bit of the vibe of the entrance, and the rest of it we're just going to design ourselves so it exactly fits into this space and gets the guests out over the lake. So we're going to use one of my favourite pieces in the game, the door that creates the darkness behind it, and use that as a door frame. And now we can have the doors that we've just built actually open, and guests will walk between them and kind of disappear into the darkness inside the building, which is really cool. The one other thing I saw in the reference photo was a kind of classic visitor center roof away in the background on the top of the restaurant, so I thought we'd add that here. And then we're going to use some chuck and pieces to start covering up all the amenities and making this look like a real building. We'll also use some of the other visitor center pieces to start building up the sides. I'm playing pretty fast and loose with this. It ends up as a kind of Nautilus shape when it's finished, which I really like. And it's just, I wanted something that was interesting to look at, both from the front when you enter the restaurant and when you're on the Cretaceous cruise in your little kayak and you're kind of rowing past it. You can see it and it looks cool there as well. It's going to make the final part of the Cretaceous cruise much more interesting now there's a restaurant and a Parasaurolophus habitat to see. So we'll start getting the basics of this shape in just using these pieces. There we go, that's starting to come together. This is what it's going to look like from the lake, minus the big outdoor part we'll build in a second. So we'll get a roof in, start tidying that up, and then we're going to completely cover the front of the building in foliage. We're going to get as tropical a vibe as we possibly can, bearing in mind we're in the Pacific Northwest here, but there's loads of ferns and palms and things like that that you can grow in the Pacific Northwest or pretty much anywhere you like outside of a desert really. So we'll be using quite a few different plants. We'll get more onto that later, but now we're going to build a structure that's going to go in front of the entrance and just make everything look a bit more impressive. This is the other part of the build that is inspired by the real building in Japan. So I'm using some of the little rope coils there and sizing them up so they just stick out through the poles and become like little bits of rope that are wrapped around it. And then we're going to use some of the same wood pieces we used earlier to create this kind of overhang that sits in front of the entrance doors. There we go, got some more detailing in there, that's looking good. Onto the plants. So this is our plant palette, this is what we're going to be using. So we'll take these and start filling in the area in front of the restaurant. We're going to start with a bit of a custom palm. This is an old Planet Zoo trick. We just take one of the palm trees and then get some of the reeds, spin them upside down, and then we can bury these into the top of the palm. Just makes it look like a different species and makes it a little bit more interesting than the same palm that we use all the time. We'll get some of these in, make sure they're at different heights so they kind of continue off into the distance, and then we'll start putting the rest of the plants in our plant palette in, including some up on the roof. Little bit of trim, can't forget that, and there we go. That's the entrance to the restaurant done. Now we can work on the path leading up to it. Considering the theme of this restaurant, it occurred to me that we've already built a replica of the entirety of the Lost World. So I've got some blueprints, including some of the stuff from the workers' village and the high hide, and we're going to drop these into the path down to the restaurant just to start selling the theme. And then we can turn our attention to the part of the restaurant that is going to be outside and extending out over the lake. So we're going to make this using the circle trick that we use quite often. So we're just going to get one of these chuck-and walls with the nice rounded top to it, get it at the right height, and then copy it below itself until it reaches to the bottom of the water. And this is going to be the wall for the outside area. We'll take a floor piece. Don't worry about what that looks like. That will all be covered up for reasons which will come apparent in a second. We're going to take this fence gate, spin it on its side, and shrink it down because I think this will make a nice fence for the edge of the outdoor terrace. There we go. We'll recolor that, and then we'll get the floor in, copy this all the way back to where the guests will come out onto the terrace. And once we've got it to where we need it to be, we will select it, duplicate it, spin it round, and paste it down opposite itself. And then we can select this whole new group we've created and start spinning this to create a circular terrace that extends out into the water. So we'll just keep spinning and making sure everything lines up perfectly so you can't see the joins in the chuck-and pieces. And once we've got a decent amount done, we'll select all of that, and then we can just rotate this and get this done much more quickly. Any little tricks like this we can use when we're building to save time is always good. We're almost out as far as we need to be on this side, and then we'll do the other side as well. And there we go. We've got ourselves a nice terrace in the water there. Looking good. Now we need to sort out these floors. Because we've rotated this into place, these floor pieces are sort of sat on top of each other a million times, and the Z fighting is not pleasant to look at. In fact, I had to cut quite a lot of this section out because I was slightly worried about actually causing some sort of epileptic fit. So we're going to cover it all up with planks. So we'll just take some of these wood pieces, just have the top sticking out so they look like wooden planks, and we'll start filling this in. We'll just copy it all the way across here, and then just keep copying bigger and bigger groups of them until we can really easily fill this whole area in. And once we've got everything covered in our new floor, which will completely obscure the original brick pieces that we had in there, all we need to do is go out to the edges. You'll see in a second that there's a few of them kind of sticking out. at the end. We just need to delete those and move a few of them around, and so we've got back to our beautiful circle that we had originally. So just a couple more of those to do, and there we go. New floor in, looking good. It's on to the detailing. We'll get some planters in on either side of the doors to the terrace and recolor those so they match the theme. We're going to take this rock and plant arrangement, shrink that down, get that at the right level, and then delete all the super tropical plants and things like that which are around the outside so it fits a bit better with our theming. And then we'll start putting all the tables and chairs in. So we'll get as many of these in as possible. This is the main restaurant for the park, so it's going to be pretty popular. And then we'll start arranging these so they look nicer and it makes sense where each table is and there's enough room to walk between them and things like that. We'll make a little area for recycling bins and standard bins where people can get rid of their rubbish. Any little extra details like this that we can add in will make things look more realistic. Get a little planter in as well to make that look nicer, and we'll shrink one of these bushes down to make a little kind of plant that can go in there. We're going to have a few of these arranged around this central rock point so people kind of know where to go. And then the final thing that we're going to do is make some custom lamps to place throughout the terrace. I'm going to be honest, I don't think the lamp selection in this game is great. We're kind of low on generic looking lamps. There's loads of kind of industrial spotlights, a couple of lamps that wouldn't look out of place in London in the 1800s. There's the couple of nice little Jurassic Park themed lamps which are really good. But there's just not that many kind of generic lamps. This is probably the most generic one we're using here, but it's very boring. So what we're going to do is combine it with one of the bamboo statue pieces. So we're going to shrink it down and then line it up exactly so the lamppost is inside the bamboo and can't be seen. We'll recolor it so it matches the bamboo nicely, and then move it up so it's positioned at the top of the bamboo piece. And then we will copy that and have 3 of those facing in different directions so they do a good job of lighting up the area at night. I think eating your dinner here in the dark with Parasaurolophus next door and Spinosaurus just across the other side of the water would be pretty amazing. And that's one of the other reasons we're doing this. With the Cretaceous cruise as it stood, unless you were physically capable of doing and wanted to kayak all the way around the lake, then your view of all of these dinosaurs was basically just the viewing tree at the beginning. This gives people the opportunity to get right up close with the Parasaurolophus and a really good view of the Amargasaurus and the Spinosaurus, and they can even see all the other giant sauropods in the distance as well, so I think it's going to massively improve the area overall. Once we finish placing these lamps everywhere, it is on to the final part of the build, the rest of the Parasaurolophus habitat. So I've got the stable we built last week and just slightly customised that for them at the end, and then we're going to go in and get in all the wetland that these guys require. We'll use the cypress brush so we can get the mist, and then we'll use the moss brush to get rid of the cypress trees. We'll tidy up this path down to the little jetty there, make sure that doesn't stick into the habitat. This path has no function in the game, it's not a path at all actually, it's just the rock terrain brush, but it just makes it look like there's a way for staff to get down to this jetty and out onto the lake, and I think things like that make the whole park look much more realistic. With that done, we can start getting rid of those cypress trees, and the water lilies, don't really want those in here. We'll paint a different grass texture in between the water and the land to make that join there look more realistic. And then it's on to the food plants. So we're going to put a few of their food plants down by the water to encourage the Parasaurolophus to come down here. And then we'll put loads of them in the habitat so they've got enough to eat. We'll put a few more of the conifer trees and things like that just to cover up those fences so the guests can't see them. And then the final thing we're going to do is drop in some more of our logs at the bottom of the fence just to tidy that up. And that's the habitat and the restaurant done. It's time to get the Parasaurolophus in. Love these guys. I don't think I've ever built a park without the Parasaurolophus. I've got them in my favourite skins, which is the Jurassic Park 2001 for the female, and Champlain Valley and Lithobates, that's how you pronounce those, for the male. Drop them into the habitat, and then we'll check out the restaurant. Here we go. I love how you've got the high hide above you, you've got the water pipes and the tower to your left, and then the restaurant in front of you, with a little Parasaurolophus statue there to let you know what's coming up. And this is the Terrace. What a beautiful place to have lunch. You can see some of our Patago Titans in the distance. And the view into the Parasaurolophus habitat, pretty nice, especially when they're down by the water like they are here. You can get so close to them. The edge of the terrace is also the habitat barrier on that side. And now, this part of the Cretaceous cruise, you got something to look at. A new jetty, a big restaurant, all the guests sat on the terrace, and then the Parasaurolophus on your right, and the Amargasaurus Island on your left, and then you are back to the beginning and done with the cruise. It's taken a while, but we finally have another restaurant in the park. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for some more Jurassic World Northwest.